Leo Conti saw them first, before the host smiled, before the music softened, before anyone dared to breathe too loud. Ethan Callahan walked into the restaurant like he owned the night, one hand in his pocket, the other guiding Hannah Reed through the crowd with an easy confidence that made Leo's stomach twist, not because Ethan was arrogant, because Hannah let him. Hannah, Leo's maid, his quiet shadow in the mansion, the woman he'd told everyone was like a sister, the one person he claimed didn't belong in the part of his life that had champagne, velvet booths, and people who stared too long. And there she was, in a simple navy dress that fit her like it had been made for her, hair loose and glossy over her shoulders, chin up, eyes calm. She looked free. Leo didn't move at first. His bodyguards paused behind him, reading the sudden stillness in his shoulders like a warning sign. The maitre d' leaned forward to greet him, then hesitated when Leo didn't answer. Leo's gaze locked on Ethan's hand, light on Hannah's back, not rude, not pushing, just familiar enough to make Leo's jaw tighten. Ethan said something close to Hannah's ear. Hannah laughed, not a small, polite laugh either, a real one. Leo felt it in his chest like a hard hit. He started walking. He didn't rush. That would look desperate. He didn't stop either. That would feel weak. He crossed the room with the same controlled pace he used in boardrooms and private meetings. But inside his thoughts were loud, sharp, and completely out of control, like a sister. That was what he'd said. So why did his hands feel like they wanted to close into fists? Ethan spotted him first. Of course he did. Ethan was always aware of his surroundings. He lifted his brows like he'd just found an extra card in his sleeve. Hannah turned. Her eyes met Leo's, and something changed in her expression. One quick flicker. Not fear, not guilt, just surprise. And then calm. That calm made Leo even crazier. He stopped at their table. "Ethan," Leo said, voice smooth enough to fool anyone who didn't know him. Leo. Ethan stood halfway, polite, casual, like they were just two friends who happened to bump into each other. Hannah rose too, and the movement was quiet and graceful, like she refused to be caught sitting while people decided things around her. "Mr. Conti," she said. Leo stared at her for half a second too long. Her perfume hit him. Clean, warm, familiar. It didn't belong here. It belonged in the mansion hallway, in the kitchen late at night when she made tea. In the little moments, Leo pretended not to notice. "What are you doing here?" he asked. He meant it to sound neutral. It did not. Hannah's mouth pressed into a polite line. "Having dinner." "With him." Leo's eyes cut to Ethan. Ethan's smile deepened like he was enjoying a private joke. "Yes, with me." Leo's bodyguard, Marco, cleared his throat behind Leo like he was reminding Leo that people were watching. They were. 2 tables over, someone was pretending to check a menu, but clearly listening. A woman near the bar had her phone angled a little too carefully. Leo lowered his voice. "Hannah." She didn't flinch, but her eyes sharpened. "Yes?" Leo forced a slow inhale. He'd told himself for months that Hannah was safe in his world because he kept her separate from it. He paid her well. He gave her security. He gave her space. He also gave her rules she never agreed to. And now, seeing her here, seen, made him realize he liked her hidden for one reason only, because it made it easier to lie to himself. Ethan pulled out Hannah's chair with deliberate politeness. "We were just about to sit. Join us." It wasn't an offer, it was a challenge. Leo looked at Hannah again. "Did you want this?" Her brows lifted slightly. "I accepted an invitation, yes." Leo's throat tightened. From him. Hannah didn't look at Ethan. She looked straight at Leo. "From myself. I'm allowed to have a night out." Leo felt heat climb up his neck. He hated that she was right. He hated even more that Ethan was watching him like he was watching a man walk into a trap of his own making. Leo leaned closer, voice low and tight. "You didn't tell me." Hannah's eyes didn't soften. "You didn't ask." The simple sentence hit harder than anything dramatic could have. Ethan sat down with a relaxed shrug as if he'd already won. Leo, if you want to stand there all night, fine, but you're blocking the aisle. Leo's stare snapped to him. This is not your business. Ethan's smile stayed calm. Funny, you told me she was like a sister. That makes her everyone's business when you look like you want to flip a table because she's eating pasta with me. The word sister tasted like poison in Leo's mouth. Hannah's gaze dropped for a second, then lifted again, steady, brave, quietly annoyed. Mr. Conti, I'm not doing anything wrong. Leo's voice came out colder than he meant. You work for me. Hannah didn't step back. I work in your house. That's different. Marco shifted again behind Leo, uncomfortable. Leo could feel the restaurant's attention like a light on his skin. He forced himself to sit. Not because Ethan invited him, because Hannah didn't look like she would leave. And Leo realized, with a bitter jolt, that he didn't get to decide when she stood up anymore. He sat across from them, shoulders squared, jaw tight. A server approached with careful eyes. Good evening, Mr. Conti. Would you like water? Leo said quickly. Ethan waved a hand. Bring him water. Maybe two. Leo's eyes narrowed. Watch your mouth. Ethan leaned back, unbothered. Watch your face. Hannah looked down at the table for a moment, then back up. Why are you really upset? Leo opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Because the real answer was simple and humiliating. He was upset because Hannah looked beautiful. He was upset because she wasn't under his roof. He was upset because Ethan saw her like a woman and not an employee. He was upset because Leo had been calling her family while imagining things he didn't want to admit. Hannah's voice stayed even. If you think I'm embarrassing you, I can leave. That finally snapped something in Leo's chest. No. The word came out too fast. Hannah froze just slightly. Ethan's eyes flicked between them with sharp interest. Leo lowered his voice, forcing control back into it. You're not embarrassing me. Hannah studied him. Then what is this? Leo's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. He could still walk away. He could still pretend he didn't care. But the thought of leaving Hannah here with Ethan, laughing again, relaxed again, made his pulse jump. He looked at Ethan. Why did you bring her here? Ethan didn't blink. She wanted dinner. I invited her. That's all. Leo's stare cut deeper. That's not all. Ethan's smile faded just a little. Maybe it's not all for you. Hannah's cheeks warmed, but her voice stayed steady. Ethan asked, and I said yes, because I'm a grown woman. Leo's eyes flicked to her lips before he could stop himself. Hannah noticed. Her breath caught, tiny but real. The table went quiet. Ethan looked between them, then let out a low laugh. Oh, okay, now it makes sense. Leo's voice turned dangerous. Stop. Ethan raised both hands, innocent. I didn't do anything. I just took a maid, sorry, your sister, out for dinner. Hannah's eyes flashed at the word sister. Leo saw it clearly now. That label wasn't protecting her. It was dismissing her. He swallowed once, hard. Then he did the last thing he'd planned to do tonight. He looked at Hannah and said, loud enough for the people close by to hear, She's not my sister. Ethan's brows lifted. Hannah's eyes widened. The nearby tables went still. Leo felt every stare, but he didn't care. He kept his gaze on Hannah, voice lower now, only for her. I said that because it was easier than admitting the truth. Hannah's throat moved as she swallowed. And what truth is that? Leo's mouth went dry. Ethan leaned back, clearly enjoying the moment like it was a front-row seat. Leo's voice softened, but the intensity stayed. That I don't like seeing you with anyone else. Hannah's breath hitched again, and her fingers tightened lightly around her napkin. Leo's eyes didn't leave her face. And I don't know what to do with that. For a second, Hannah looked like she might stand up and walk away. Then she leaned forward slightly, calm but firm. You start by not controlling me. Leo nodded once, quick, almost desperate. Fine. Hannah blinked, surprised by how fast he agreed. Leo kept going because stopping now would make him a coward again. You can go out. You can laugh. You can have friends. But if you're asking what I feel, Hannah cut in. I didn't ask what you feel. I asked why you're upset. Leo's lips pressed together, frustration mixing with something softer. Because I've been lying. Hannah's expression didn't soften yet. To who? Leo held her gaze. To myself. Silence. Ethan let out a quiet whistle. Leo, I didn't think you had it in you to be honest in public. Leo didn't look at him. Be quiet. Ethan grinned. Gladly. Hannah's voice came out low. Mr. Conti, Leo. The way she said his first name made his pulse jump. I'm not a thing you own, she continued. And I'm not a secret you hide. If you're going to say big words in a restaurant, you better be ready to live with what happens next. Leo's throat tightened. What happens next? Hannah's eyes held his, steady and brave. You tell me why you kept calling me your sister. When you look at me like that. Leo's mind raced, because if he answered honestly, the world would change. If he didn't, Hannah might leave the table, and maybe his life, with a calm that would ruin him. Leo's voice dropped into a quiet, dangerous confession. Because if I admitted what I wanted, I'd have to admit I don't want you to be just my maid. Hannah's lips parted. Ethan's smile slowly vanished, like even he realized this wasn't a game anymore. Hannah's voice came out almost soft. Then, what do you want me to be? Leo stared at her, beautiful, composed, steady, and realized he'd reached the edge of the lie he'd been living, and the next word out of his mouth would decide everything. But could he say it? With Ethan sitting right there, watching, and the whole room listening? Leo didn't answer her question, not fully, not because he didn't know, because he knew too well. He held Hannah's gaze across the table, and for a moment he forgot the restaurant, forgot the people pretending not to listen, forgot Ethan's quiet stare. Then Hannah leaned back slightly, as if giving him one last chance to be normal. Ethan cleared his throat. Okay. I'm going to do what no one expects and excuse myself for 2 minutes. I need to, call my driver. Leo didn't trust him for a second, but Hannah's eyes followed Ethan as he walked away, and Leo realized Ethan wasn't leaving out of fear. He was leaving out of respect. That only made Leo more unsettled. The second Ethan was out of earshot, Hannah folded her hands on the table. Calm, polite, firm. You made a scene. Leo's voice came out low. I didn't mean to. You did, she replied. No cruelty, just truth. And now everyone here knows you. Feel something. Leo's jaw tightened. They don't matter. Hannah's eyes sharpened. I matter. The simple correction landed cleanly. Leo nodded once. Yes. Hannah didn't smile. Then answer me. What do you want me to be? Leo's fingers tapped the edge of his glass once, then stopped. He forced himself to speak like a man, not a boss. I want you close. Hannah's brows lifted. Close how? Leo's throat moved as he swallowed. He didn't reach for her. He didn't touch her. He didn't try to use the heat in his voice as a weapon. He simply told the truth the way it existed in him. I want to take care of you. I want to know where you are because I miss you when you're not in the house. I want to be the person you look for when you walk into a room. Hannah stared at him for a long moment. Then she said quietly, That sounds like control wearing a nicer suit. Leo flinched, but he didn't deny it. Maybe it started that way. Hannah's voice stayed steady. And now? Leo's eyes dropped to her mouth again before he could stop himself. Hannah noticed again. Her cheeks warmed. Her breathing changed, just slightly. Leo forced his gaze back to her eyes. Now it feels like I'm late. Late? She asked. Leo exhaled slowly. Late to admitting I want you. The words sat between them like something dangerous and real. Hannah didn't look away. Want is easy to say. Respect is harder. Leo nodded. Tell me what you need. Hannah's expression didn't soften, but her voice did. Just enough to show she wasn't trying to punish him. She was trying to protect herself. First, you stop speaking to me like I'm an employee when you're upset. Leo's jaw tightened. I can do that. Second, Hannah continued, you don't get to decide who I see. Leo's eyes narrowed, a reflex he hated. Including Ethan? Hannah's lips pressed together. Especially including Ethan. He's your friend. He's been kind to me. And he asked like a gentleman. Leo's chest tightened again. He did it to provoke me. Hannah's gaze turned sharp. Did it work? Leo didn't answer. Hannah's voice stayed calm. It worked. Because you let it. You've been acting like you don't feel anything, and then you punish everyone for not reading your mind. That stung because it was true. Leo leaned forward slightly, voice low. I'm not trying to punish you. Hannah's eyes didn't drop. Then stop acting like you're allowed to. Leo's mouth went dry. He nodded once, slow. Okay. Hannah blinked, surprised by his quick agreement again. Leo's voice softened. I don't want you hurt. Hannah's expression changed a fraction at that, something warmer, something almost tender. I don't want to be hidden. Leo's chest tightened. I never meant to hide you. Hannah's gaze held his. But you did. Leo's fingers curled once, then relaxed. I said sister, because I thought it would keep men away. Hannah's brows lifted. So you did want control. Leo didn't deny it. Yes. Hannah's voice came out low. Thank you for saying it. Leo's eyes flicked over her face like he was memorizing it. I didn't expect to feel this. Hannah gave a small, humorless laugh. Nobody expects to feel anything. Then it happens. Leo leaned closer, voice quiet. Do you feel anything? Hannah's lips parted. For a second, Leo thought she might answer in a way that would ruin him. Then she stood up. Leo's hand moved an inch like he wanted to stop her, but he didn't touch her. Hannah picked up her purse. I'm going to the restroom. Leo stayed seated, watching her walk away, and he realized something that made his stomach drop. Hannah didn't look back. Not once. Ethan returned a minute later, sliding back into his seat with a calm expression, like he hadn't just witnessed something intense enough to break glass. So, he said lightly, how's the water? Leo's stare was cold. You did this on purpose. Ethan didn't deny it. You asked me to keep her safe. Leo's eyes narrowed. That's not what you were doing. Ethan's tone softened, just enough to show he wasn't trying to steal Hannah. I was doing exactly what you couldn't, treating her like a woman. Leo's jaw tightened. Careful. Ethan leaned forward slightly, voice low. Leo, if you want her, you need to stop pretending you don't. And you need to stop hiding behind words like family when your eyes tell the truth. Leo didn't answer. Ethan's gaze stayed sharp. Do you know what she said to me when I invited her? Leo's pulse kicked. No. Ethan's voice was quiet. She said she almost said no. Because she didn't want it to cause trouble for you. Even after all the times you acted like she didn't matter in public. Leo felt a wave of guilt, hot and heavy. Ethan continued, softer now. She cares, Leo, but she's tired. Leo's fingers tightened around the glass. Tired of what? Ethan's eyes held his. Tired of waiting for you to be honest. Leo's throat moved. Hannah returned a moment later, calm again. Composed again, like she could put her emotions in a drawer whenever she wanted. That ability terrified Leo. She sat down, but not close to him. She sat in her own space, her posture straight. Leo forced himself to speak quietly. Do you want to go home? Hannah's eyes lifted. Home? Leo caught the word. The mansion wasn't her home. It was her workplace. He corrected himself immediately. Do you want to leave? Hannah studied him for a moment, then nodded. Yes. Ethan stood at once. I'll get the check. Leo's voice came out sharp. No. Ethan paused. Leo looked at Hannah, not Ethan. I'll take you. Hannah's brows lifted. You'll take me? Where? Leo's voice was low. Wherever you want. Not because I'm your boss, because I'm asking. Hannah's eyes searched his face, then dropped briefly to his mouth. Her breath changed again. Then she said quietly, drive me somewhere quiet. Leo stood so fast his chair shifted. Marco immediately moved in, ready to escort them. Ethan stepped aside with a small, satisfied smile, but he didn't look smug now. He looked relieved. Outside, the city air was cold and sharp. Leo opened the car door for Hannah himself, ignoring Marco's automatic reach. Hannah paused before getting in. Leo. He looked up, chest tight. Hannah's voice was soft but firm. You don't get to be jealous and sweet in the same hour and think that fixes everything. Leo nodded once. I know. Hannah's eyes held his. Good, because I'm not staying in your house forever. The words hit like a sudden drop. Leo's mouth went dry. What? Hannah slid into the car, calm again, like she hadn't just cracked open his world. Leo got in beside her, the door closing with a heavy sound. His bodyguards took the front. The car moved. Leo's voice came out low, careful. What do you mean you're not staying forever? Hannah looked out the window at the lights passing by. I mean, I have a timeline. Leo's pulse hammered. A timeline for what? Hannah turned her face toward him, eyes steady. For leaving. Leo's chest tightened so hard he almost couldn't breathe. And he realized with a sick twist that Ethan's little dinner wasn't the real threat. The real threat was that Hannah had already been planning a life that didn't include Leo Conti at all. So why hadn't she told him? And how long did he have before she walked away for good? Leo couldn't sleep after she said it. Not because he feared danger, because he feared absence. He lay in his bed in the mansion's quiet wing, staring at the ceiling, hearing Hannah's calm voice in his head. I have a timeline. He replayed every moment from the restaurant, every time she'd looked him in the eyes without begging, without trembling, without performing for him. Hannah wasn't trapped. She was choosing. And now she was choosing an exit. By morning, Leo was already downstairs when Hannah entered the kitchen. She looked the same as always, neat blouse, hair pulled back loosely, face fresh and calm. But Leo saw the difference now. Her calm wasn't obedience. It was control. She reached for the kettle, and Leo watched her hands like he didn't trust himself. Good morning, she said, polite. Leo's voice came out quiet. Good morning. Hannah paused for half a second, as if she didn't expect him to be there. He stepped back from the counter to give her space, a small gesture that felt strangely hard for him. Hannah turned on the kettle. Do you need something? Leo hated how that sounded like a work question. He answered like a man. I need to talk. Hannah didn't turn yet. About what? Leo's chest tightened. About you leaving. The kettle clicked softly. Hannah finally turned to face him. Her expression stayed calm, but her eyes sharpened. You heard that? Leo nodded once. Yes. Hannah's voice was even. And? Leo swallowed. And I want to understand. Hannah studied him for a long moment, then nodded slightly toward the table. Sit. Leo sat. Hannah poured herself tea first, then poured him coffee like she always did, but she placed the cup down gently, without the usual quiet smile. Then she sat across from him. It felt wrong, in a way that made Leo's pulse jump. Like they were equals now. Hannah spoke first. I wasn't planning to tell you yet. Leo's jaw tightened. Why not? Hannah's gaze held his. Because I knew this would happen. Leo frowned. What would happen? Hannah's voice stayed calm, but there was heat under it now. You would look at it like a problem you can solve with control. Leo's mouth went dry. That's not... Hannah lifted a hand, stopping him without fear. Leo, I've worked for you long enough to know how your mind moves. The way she said his first name again hit him hard. Leo forced himself to be honest. I want to fix it. Hannah nodded once. Exactly. Leo leaned forward slightly. Then tell me what's true. Why do you want to leave? Hannah's eyes softened just a fraction. Because I'm proud of myself. Leo blinked. Hannah continued, steady. When I came here, I needed a fresh start. I needed stability. I needed quiet. I got that. Leo's chest tightened at the word quiet. He had given her quiet. Yes, but he had taken something too. Hannah's voice stayed level. But I didn't come to disappear forever. I came to rebuild. Leo's jaw tightened. Rebuild into what? Hannah took a breath. Into someone who can choose her life without asking permission. Leo's stomach twisted. Did I make you feel like you needed permission? Hannah's gaze stayed on him. Not with your words, with your silence. That sentence landed clean and heavy. Leo swallowed. I'm sorry. Hannah didn't smile at the apology, but her eyes warmed slightly. Thank you. Leo's voice came out low. So what's the timeline? Hannah hesitated, and Leo felt a flash of panic. Then she said it. Soon. Leo's hands tightened under the table. How soon? Hannah's voice stayed calm. Weeks, not months. Leo's chest tightened so hard it almost hurt. He forced his voice to stay steady. Do you already have something lined up? Hannah's eyes flicked away for the first time. Yes? Leo's stomach dropped. Where? He asked. Hannah's voice was quiet. A job offer, in a different part of the city. Leo nodded slowly, trying to breathe. And you were going to take it? Hannah looked back at him. Yes. Leo's voice roughened. Even after last night? Hannah's cheeks warmed slightly. Last night doesn't erase 3 years of you calling me family like I was a safe object. Leo flinched. I didn't mean... Hannah's tone stayed calm but sharp. I know you didn't mean to hurt me. That doesn't mean it didn't hurt. Leo stared at her, guilt pressing down on him. Then he asked the question that felt like walking into fire. Do you want me? Hannah's eyes widened slightly. Leo held her gaze, voice low and steady. Not as your boss, not as the man who pays you, as a man. Do you want me? Hannah's breathing changed. Her fingers curled lightly around her teacup. She didn't look away. She also didn't answer quickly. That pause almost broke him. Then she said, very quietly, I'm attracted to you. Leo's pulse hit hard. Hannah continued, voice still low but firm. I've been attracted to you. That's not the issue. Leo's throat went dry. Then what is the issue? Hannah's eyes held his. I won't be your secret. I won't be your guilt. I won't be your impulse. Leo nodded slowly. You'll be my choice. Hannah blinked. Leo's voice stayed steady, careful. If you give me a chance, I'll do this the right way. Hannah's gaze searched his face. What does right mean to you? Leo answered immediately. Public respect. No games, no labels that erase you, and no punishment when you live your life. Hannah's eyes softened. Just a fraction. Then a staff member entered the kitchen quickly, holding an envelope. Mr. Conti, this came for her. They looked confused, like they didn't know what rule they'd just broken. Leo's eyes snapped to the envelope. Hannah's face went still. The staff member held it out toward Hannah, uncertain. It's addressed to Hannah Reed. Hannah stood slowly and took it, fingers tight around the paper. Leo rose too, heart pounding. What is it? Hannah didn't answer. She opened it with controlled hands. A card slid out, thick, formal. Hannah's eyes scanned it. Her face changed. Not fear, not anger. Something like shock. Leo stepped closer, careful not to crowd her. Hannah. She lifted her eyes to him, and for the first time since he'd met her, she looked like she might lose control. It's an invitation, she whispered. Leo's brows tightened. To what? Hannah swallowed. A charity gala. Leo frowned. You already said you have a job offer. Why? Hannah's voice turned thin. Because it's not addressed to your maid. Leo's stomach dropped. Hannah held up the card, and Leo saw the name printed in elegant letters beneath the invitation line. Not Hannah Reed, a different name. A name Hannah had never told him. Leo's chest tightened as he stared at it, mind racing. Hannah's voice came out quiet and shaken. I told you I came here to rebuild. I didn't tell you what I rebuilt from. Leo's pulse hammered. because now he had proof that Hannah wasn't just keeping a timeline. She was keeping a whole identity. And the worst part? Someone out there already knew. Leo's voice came out low and dangerous, more fear than anger. "Who are you, Hannah?" Hannah's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. She lifted her chin, steady again, and whispered, "Someone you would have protected, even if you never wanted me." Leo stared at her, and for the first time he realized the jealousy wasn't the biggest problem. The biggest problem was this. If Hannah had been hiding her real name, what else had she been hiding? And why did that gala invitation feel like the start of something neither of them could control? Leo didn't take the card from her. He didn't reach. He just stood there, close enough to feel the warmth of her, and waited like he was afraid one wrong move would make her disappear. Hannah's fingers tightened around the thick invitation. "Who are you?" Leo asked again, quieter this time. Not sharp, not accusing, almost careful. Hannah drew in a slow breath. "I'm still me." Leo's eyes stayed fixed on the name printed in gold. A different name. A name that didn't belong to the woman who folded towels in his mansion at midnight and reminded the cook to label leftovers. Hannah swallowed once. "My legal name is Hannah Reed," she said, voice steady but thin. "But that name on the card is the one people used before I changed my life." Leo's chest tightened. "Why would anyone send you this?" "Because I didn't vanish," she replied. "I just stepped out of sight." The staff member lingered by the doorway, awkward and unsure. Leo turned his head slightly. "Thank you, that's all." The staff member hurried out. Silence dropped into the kitchen like a weight. Hannah set the card on the table, flat, like she needed it to stop shaking in her hands. Then she looked at Leo. "Say it," she told him. Leo's brow creased. "Say what?" "The name," she said softly. "If you're going to know, you're going to actually know." Leo's throat worked once. He read it out loud. Hannah Sterling. The sound of it made her eyes flicker. Leo stared at her. "Sterling, like the Sterling Foundation?" Hannah's jaw tightened. "Yes." Leo's mind raced, putting pieces together, the quiet confidence, the way she never begged, the way she carried herself like she belonged in rooms full of money. "You're that Hannah Sterling?" he asked. Hannah's eyes hardened, not from pride, from exhaustion. "I used to be." Leo stepped back half a pace like he needed air, not because he thought less of her, because he suddenly understood the size of what she'd been carrying alone. Ethan's voice came from the doorway, casual and too loud for the tension in the room. "Am I interrupting a conversation where someone finally admits feelings and someone else admits a secret identity?" Leo snapped his head. "Ethan." Ethan froze, then lifted his hands. Okay, I'm leaving. I was just coming to—" Hannah cut in, calm but firm. "It's fine. He can stay." Leo's eyes flicked to her, surprised. Hannah exhaled. "If this is going to be real, it can't be hidden. Not from your friend. Not from the world." Ethan stepped in slowly, his playful expression fading when he saw the invitation on the table. He leaned closer, read the name, then looked up at Hannah like he'd just realized he'd been at dinner with a headline. "Hannah Sterling," he murmured. "No way." Hannah gave him a look that was half warning, half tired. "Please don't make it a thing." Ethan nodded quickly. "Not a thing. Got it." Leo's voice came out rough. "Why didn't you tell me?" Hannah met his gaze. "Because you didn't love me then." The words landed clean, no drama, no whining, just a fact she'd accepted. Leo's chest tightened. Hannah held up a hand. "I'm not saying you're a bad man, Leo. I'm saying you weren't ready, and I wasn't risking my peace for a man who called me his sister while looking at me like he wanted more." Ethan cleared his throat. "I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that last part for my own mental health." Hannah's mouth twitched like she almost smiled. Leo's eyes stayed locked on her. "Why did you leave?" Hannah looked away for a second. When she looked back, her eyes were clear. "Because I got tired of being someone's ornament," she said. "I grew up in rooms where people smiled and stabbed you later. I was engaged to a man who loved the idea of my last name more than he loved me. When it ended publicly. Leo's jaw tightened, a protective reaction he didn't even try to hide. He hurt you. Hannah's voice stayed steady. He embarrassed me. He used me. He made me feel like I didn't own my own life. Ethan's face went serious. That's why you came here. Hannah nodded once. I wanted a job where no one cared who my father was, where I could work, sleep, breathe, and stop performing. Leo stared at her, guilt rising like heat in his throat. And I made you perform again. Hannah didn't answer right away. Then she said quietly, You made me careful. Leo's eyes dropped. I'm sorry. Hannah's gaze softened a fraction. I know. Leo looked back at the invitation. This gala, they want you there. Hannah's jaw tightened. They want Hannah Sterling, the daughter, the symbol, the pretty face who smiles for photos. Ethan leaned on the counter, trying to lighten the air without disrespecting it. For what it's worth, you're still a pretty face. Hannah shot him a look. Ethan. He grinned. Sorry, but I'm not wrong. Leo didn't smile. Hannah noticed that, and something in her expression warmed. Not pleased, just aware. Leo's voice was low. Do you want to go? Hannah hesitated. That hesitation, Leo said, softer, tells me it's complicated. Hannah looked down at her hands. I don't want to go as who they want. But I also don't want to keep hiding. I'm tired of hiding. Leo nodded once. Then don't hide. Hannah's eyes lifted. And do what? Walk in alone and let them pull me into a life I ran from. Leo's jaw tightened. You won't be alone. Hannah held his gaze. That sounds like control again. Leo took a breath, forced himself to slow down. Then let me say it the right way. I want to stand next to you. If you want me there. Hannah's throat moved. Her eyes searched his face like she was looking for the old Leo, the one who used labels and distance. Then she asked very quietly, Can you stand next to me, without making decisions for me? Leo answered immediately, Yes. Ethan whistled under his breath. Wow. Growth. Leo didn't look at him. Not now. Ethan mimed, zipping his lips. Hannah reached for the invitation again. Her fingers trembled slightly, then steadied. I have 2 weeks, she said. That's when I plan to leave your house. Leo's chest tightened. So the timeline is real? Hannah nodded. Yes. Ethan's brows lifted. Leave the house as in, quit? Hannah's gaze stayed on Leo. Yes. Leo's voice came out low, controlled, but it wasn't cold. It was scared. If I ask you to stay, will you? Hannah's eyes didn't soften. Not like this. Leo swallowed. Then how? Hannah's voice turned firm. As a woman you respect, not as your maid, not as your secret. Leo nodded slowly. Okay. Hannah blinked, surprised again by how quickly he agreed. Leo stepped closer, careful, like he was approaching something fragile. Then let me start now. Hannah's breath caught when he stopped in front of her, close enough to make the air feel different. Leo's gaze dropped to her mouth. He didn't touch her. Tell me what you need, he whispered. Hannah's eyes flicked up to his. Honesty. You have it, Leo said. Hannah swallowed. Public respect. Leo nodded. Yes. Hannah's voice lowered. And patience. Leo exhaled. I can do that. Ethan coughed loudly. I'm leaving. I'm really leaving. I'm going to go be a supportive friend somewhere far away. He walked out fast, as if he'd seen enough to know a door should close. When he was gone, Hannah's gaze stayed on Leo. Don't kiss me, she said softly. Leo froze. Hannah's eyes were steady. Not yet. Not until you prove you're not just reacting because you saw me with someone else. Leo's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Okay. Hannah's breath was shallow now. But you can hold my hand. Leo's hand lifted slowly, like he was asking permission without words. Hannah slid her fingers into his. The contact was simple. It was also intense enough to make Leo's shoulders drop like he'd been carrying something heavy for years. He squeezed gently. "I want you," he said quietly. "Not because I'm jealous. Because I've wanted you." Hannah's eyes glistened. She didn't cry. "Then show me," she whispered. Leo's thumb moved once across her knuckles, slow and careful. "I will." Hannah turned her head slightly, as if she was listening to something only she could hear. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it. Her face tightened. Leo's stomach dropped. "What is it?" Hannah's voice went quiet. "A message from someone I haven't heard from in a long time." Leo's grip tightened slightly. "Who?" Hannah looked up at him, eyes steady again, but the tension was back in her shoulders. "The man I used to be engaged to," she said. Leo went still. Not angry, not loud, just dangerously calm. "And he wrote," Hannah continued, voice low, "that he'll be at the gala." Leo stared at her, heart pounding, one thought cutting through everything else. If Hannah's past was walking back into her life in 2 weeks, what exactly was it coming to take? Leo didn't raise his voice. He didn't pace. He didn't snap orders. That scared Hannah more than any outburst would have. He just stood there holding her hand, eyes fixed on her face like he was trying to read the truth before she said another word. "Say his name," Leo said quietly. Hannah hesitated. Then she said it. "Graham Pierce." Leo's jaw tightened. He didn't pretend he didn't know the name. People like Graham Pierce showed up in headlines, in charity boards, in glossy photos with perfect smiles. Hannah pulled her hand back gently, not rejecting him, just making space. "I don't want you to turn this into a war." Leo's eyes stayed on her. "I'm not going to." Hannah searched his face. "Promise." Leo nodded once. "I promise." Hannah exhaled, relieved, then annoyed at herself for needing relief. She picked up her phone again, thumb hovering over the screen. "I didn't respond." Leo's voice stayed calm. "Good." Hannah looked up. "Why is he contacting me now?" Leo didn't answer immediately. He took a breath as if he was choosing words that wouldn't trap her. "Because he heard you're coming back into view." Hannah's throat moved. "I don't even know if I'm going." Leo's gaze softened. "You will go if you want. Not because he's there. Not because they expect you." Hannah nodded slowly. "Okay." Leo's eyes held hers. "And you're not doing it alone?" Hannah's mouth tightened. "That sounds like you deciding again." Leo corrected himself instantly. "I want to be there if you want me there." Hannah paused, then nodded. "I want you there." The words came out quiet. Leo's chest tightened like he'd been waiting for them. Hannah glanced down again, then forced herself to look back up. "But I'm not going as your employee." Leo nodded. "Then you're not my employee anymore." Hannah froze. Leo's tone stayed steady. "Effective today, if you want it." Hannah blinked, stunned. "Leo." He didn't flinch. "You said respect. This is respect. You've given years of your life to my house. You don't need to be on my payroll to be in my life." Hannah's eyes warmed, but she didn't melt. She stayed firm. "And where do I live?" Leo answered without hesitation. "Where you want." Hannah's brows lifted. "That's not an answer." Leo swallowed. "Okay. Real answer. If you want to stay in the staff apartment while you transition, you can. If you want a place in the city, I'll help you find it. No strings, no ownership. You sign the lease. You pick the neighborhood." Hannah stared at him, emotions flickering fast across her face. Then she let out a small laugh, soft and surprised. "You sound like you've been practicing." Leo's mouth twitched. "I have." Hannah shook her head slightly. "That's, actually sweet." Leo's eyes darkened with want for half a second. Then he looked away, forcing himself to keep control. Hannah noticed. It made her breath change. It also made her trust him a little more. Leo cleared his throat. "I want to do something today." Hannah narrowed her eyes. "Something expensive and dramatic?" Leo paused. "Something simple." Hannah's expression softened a fraction. "Like what?" Leo met her gaze. "A normal day. You pick what it looks like. Hannah hesitated. Then she said, "No bodyguards." Leo's jaw tightened. "Hannah," she lifted a hand. "One. Far behind. Not in my face." Leo held her gaze, then nodded. "One. Far behind." Hannah blinked, surprised again. Leo's mouth twitched. "Stop looking shocked. It's humiliating." Hannah laughed, real laughter, and the sound hit Leo's chest like relief. "Fine," she said. "One." 2 hours later, Hannah walked out of the mansion in jeans, boots, and a soft sweater that made her look younger, lighter. Leo waited near the car, but not the armored one. A simple black SUV. When he saw her, he froze for half a second. Hannah lifted a brow. "What?" Leo's voice came out rough. "You look good." Hannah's cheeks warmed. "It's a sweater." Leo stepped closer, gaze low and intense. "It's you." Hannah rolled her eyes, but she smiled slightly. "Careful, you're getting romantic." Leo leaned in, voice low. "I'm trying." Hannah's mouth tightened like she was fighting a smile. "Okay. Where are we going?" Leo opened the passenger door for her. "Where you want." Hannah stared at him. "You keep saying that." Leo shrugged. "I'm learning." Hannah slid into the seat. "Then let's see if you can handle my version of normal." She gave him directions through the city until they reached a small street lined with a bookstore, a little cafe, and a shop that sold fresh flowers. Leo parked and stepped out, scanning the sidewalk out of habit. Hannah touched his arm lightly. "Leo." He looked down. Her eyes were calm but firm. "I said one bodyguard far behind, not you acting like the sidewalk is a battlefield." Leo exhaled slowly. "Right." Hannah nodded once. "Thank you." They walked together. At first, Leo's pace was too controlled, too fast. Hannah slowed him down by simply walking slower. Leo adjusted without complaint. Inside the bookstore, Hannah moved between shelves with quiet focus, fingers brushing spines, eyes scanning titles. Leo followed her like he didn't know what to do with a place where no one cared who he was. A young employee looked up, did a double take, then recovered. "Hi, can I help you find something?" Hannah answered first. "Yes, romance." Leo's head snapped toward her. Hannah's eyes sparkled. "Something modern, not dramatic, not tragic." The employee smiled. "Got it." Leo leaned toward Hannah, voice low. "Is this a message?" Hannah glanced at him, innocent. "Maybe." The employee returned with a few options. Hannah picked one up, flipped it, then frowned. "No." Leo watched her. "Why not?" Hannah held the book up. "Because it has a rich man who treats her like a prize." Leo's mouth twitched. "That sounds terrible." Hannah looked at him. "You're learning." Leo leaned in, voice lower. "I don't want to be a prize guy." Hannah's gaze dropped briefly to his mouth, then back up. "Then don't act like one." Leo nodded. "Okay." She picked a different book, then another, and suddenly she was laughing again, holding up a title that made Ethan's voice pop into her head. Leo tilted his head. "What?" Hannah turned the cover toward him. "This one is about a man who claims he doesn't get jealous, then loses his mind when his friend talks to her." Leo stared at the cover, then at her. Hannah's smile widened. "Sound familiar?" Leo's jaw tightened. "Extremely." Hannah leaned closer, voice soft. "You're lucky I think it's kind of cute." Leo's eyes darkened, and the air between them shifted. He lifted a hand, slowly, then stopped, remembering her boundary. Hannah noticed the stop. Her voice turned quiet. "You can kiss me today." Leo froze. "Hannah." She held his gaze. "One kiss. Not because you're jealous, because you've been patient for hours and it's driving me crazy." Leo's breath went shallow. He searched her face like he didn't trust himself. Hannah leaned in just slightly. "But if you make it possessive, I'm going to step back." Leo nodded once, serious. "Okay." Then he cupped her face gently, hands warm, careful, and kissed her like he'd been holding his breath for years. It wasn't rough. It wasn't rushed. It was slow and steady, and it made Hannah's knees feel weak in the least dramatic, most real way. When he pulled back, his forehead rested lightly against hers. Leo's voice was barely above a whisper. "I want to do this right." Hannah's eyes were glossy, but she didn't cry. "Then keep doing what you just did." Leo swallowed. "Tell me." Hannah's lips brushed his once, quick. "More patience." Leo let out a short laugh, half relieved, half tortured. "You're cruel." Hannah smiled. "I'm careful." They left the bookstore with a bag and walked toward the flower shop. Hannah pointed at a bunch of simple white flowers. "Those." Leo stepped forward to pay. Hannah grabbed his wrist lightly. "No." Leo blinked. "Why?" Hannah's eyes held his. "Because I'm not your project. I can buy my own flowers." Leo paused, then nodded. "Okay." The cashier smiled at Hannah. "These are beautiful." Hannah paid and carried them like they mattered. Outside, Leo watched her for a long moment. Hannah tilted her head. "What?" Leo's voice was low. "You look like someone who belongs to herself." Hannah's throat tightened, touched. "That's the goal." They walked in silence for a moment. Then Hannah's phone buzzed again. She glanced down. Her face tightened. Leo's calm returned instantly, controlled and steady. "Graham?" Hannah nodded. She didn't open it. She just stared at the notification like it was a door she didn't want to touch. Leo's voice was quiet. "Do you want me to read it?" Hannah looked up sharply. "No." Leo nodded. "Okay." Hannah exhaled. "But I need to tell you something." Leo's chest tightened. "Tell me." Hannah's voice turned steady again, like she was choosing courage. "I got an offer this morning." Leo went still. "A job." Hannah nodded. "A real one, not housekeeping, event management, for a foundation that's connected to the gala." Leo's jaw tightened, not in anger, but in fear. "So you're leaving?" Hannah's gaze held his. "I was already leaving. This just confirms I can." Leo swallowed hard. "And what do you want?" Hannah's voice turned quiet. "I want you, and I want my life." Leo nodded slowly. "Then you should have both." Hannah blinked. Leo's eyes held hers. "If you choose me, I'm not taking anything from you." Hannah's breath shook slightly. Then she said softly, "Okay." Leo's chest tightened. "Okay, what?" Hannah stepped closer. "Okay, I'll go to the gala." Leo's pulse jumped. Hannah continued, voice firm. "As Hannah Sterling, as myself." Leo nodded once. "And me?" Hannah looked him straight in the eyes. "You'll come with me." Leo's voice went low. "As what?" Hannah's lips curved slightly, teasing him. "That depends." Leo's eyes narrowed. "On what?" Hannah leaned in, close enough to make his breath catch. "On whether you can keep your promise when Graham Pierce stands in front of you and tries to treat me like I'm still his." Leo went still, jaw tight, eyes dark. And Hannah realized the real test wasn't the gala. It was what Leo would do when jealousy had a name and a face again. So could Leo Conti stay gentle when a man from Hannah's past tried to pull her back into the life she escaped? The gala arrived faster than Hannah expected. The dress she chose wasn't flashy. It was clean, fitted, confident, midnight blue with simple lines, the kind of dress that didn't beg for attention, but got it anyway. Leo waited outside her room like he was guarding a treasure, but he didn't knock. He didn't rush her. He just stood there, hands clasped behind his back, breathing like he was preparing to walk into something that mattered more than pride. When Hannah stepped out, everything in Leo's face changed. He didn't say anything at first. His eyes moved over her slowly, respectfully, then landed on her face and stayed there. Hannah lifted a brow. "Are you going to stare all night?" Leo's voice came out low. "I'm trying not to." Hannah's cheeks warmed. "Why?" Leo stepped closer, careful. "Because if I start, I won't stop." Hannah's breath caught. Leo held out his hand, palm up, asking. Hannah placed her hand in his. He squeezed gently. "You're not doing this alone," he said again. Hannah met his gaze. "Remember the rule." Leo nodded once. "I'm here, not in charge." Hannah's mouth tightened into a small smile. "Good." They arrived at the venue with cameras, bright lights, and people who knew exactly how to look like they belonged. Hannah's stomach tightened the second she saw the Sterling Foundation banner. Leo felt it. He leaned toward her, voice low. "Breathe." Hannah exhaled slowly. "I'm fine." Leo's eyes softened. "I know. But I want you to feel fine." She glanced at him, touched despite herself. "That's sweet." Leo's mouth twitched. "Don't tell Ethan. He'll never let me recover." Hannah laughed quietly, and some of the tension loosened. Inside, heads turned. Not because of Leo. Because of Hannah. It happened in waves. A pause, a whisper, a quick smile from someone older, a stare from someone curious. Then a woman in a sleek black gown stepped forward, eyes wide. "Hannah Sterling," she breathed. "Oh my God." Hannah kept her posture steady. "Hello, Vivian." Vivian's smile wobbled. "We didn't know if you'd come." Hannah's voice stayed calm. "I'm here." Vivian's gaze flicked to Leo. "And you are?" Before Leo could speak, Hannah answered smoothly. "This is Leo." Vivian blinked, clearly waiting for a last name. Leo didn't offer it. He simply nodded politely. "Good evening?" Vivian recovered quickly. "Of course. Well, welcome back." The words "back" landed heavy. Hannah swallowed. Leo squeezed her hand once, gentle, steady. Vivian leaned closer. "Your father is around." Hannah's jaw tightened. "I'll see him when I'm ready." Vivian nodded, then brightened. "There are people who've missed you." Hannah's eyes stayed clear. "And there are people who miss the idea of me." Vivian laughed awkwardly, then drifted away. Leo turned his head slightly. "You did great." Hannah exhaled slowly. "I'm still standing." Leo's eyes stayed on her mouth for a second, then back to her eyes. "You're more than standing." Hannah's cheeks warmed. "Leo." He didn't push. He didn't rush. He simply stayed close, present. Then the room shifted. Hannah felt it before she saw it, the quiet attention turning, the way people made space. Leo's grip tightened slightly. Hannah's throat went dry. "He's here." Leo didn't ask who. He already knew. Graham Pierce stepped into view with a calm smile, perfectly tailored suit, hair neat, eyes sharp. He looked like the kind of man who'd never been told no. His gaze landed on Hannah and softened in a way that felt practiced. "Hannah," he said warmly, like they were old friends, "you look incredible." Hannah's spine stayed straight. "Graham." Graham's eyes flicked to Leo, then back to Hannah. "I didn't know you'd be bringing company." Hannah's voice stayed calm. "I didn't know you'd be invited." Graham smiled, unbothered. "I'm hard to avoid in rooms like this." Leo's jaw tightened. Hannah felt it and slid her fingers more firmly through Leo's, grounding him. Graham's smile widened slightly. "You vanished." Hannah met his gaze. "I left." Graham's voice softened. "You didn't have to." Hannah's eyes stayed steady. "Yes, I did." Graham leaned in slightly, like he was trying to pull her into a private moment. "We never really finished our conversation." Hannah's expression didn't change. "We finished it when you made it public." Graham's smile faltered for half a second, then returned. "I've changed." Hannah's voice stayed level. "That's good for you." Graham's eyes flicked to Leo again. "And who is this?" Leo spoke before Hannah could. Calm, controlled, no threat in his tone, just certainty. "I'm Leo Conti," he said. Graham's brows lifted, recognition flashing. Leo didn't blink. "And Hannah is here with me." Graham smiled slowly. "Interesting." Hannah squeezed Leo's hand. "A reminder. Don't make it possessive." Leo took a breath and did what Hannah asked. He stayed gentle. Hannah turned fully to Graham. "I'm not here to revisit the past. Graham's smile turned sad. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to admit we mattered. Hannah's voice stayed quiet but firm. We mattered until you proved I didn't matter to you. The words landed like a clean cut. Graham's jaw tightened slightly. Then he did what Hannah expected. He tried to step closer. Leo didn't block him. Hannah stepped back on her own. She held up her hand, calm and clear. Don't. Graham paused, surprised by the boundary done so publicly. Hannah's voice stayed steady. We're not doing this. Graham's eyes sharpened. So this is what you ran to? A man with power? Hannah's expression went cold. I ran to peace. Leo's jaw flexed. Hannah squeezed his hand again, warning him not to speak for her. Then Hannah turned her head slightly and did the last thing Graham expected. She addressed the room. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough that people nearby heard. I'd like to thank the Sterling Foundation for having me, Hannah said, voice calm and clear. I'm here tonight because I'm ready to be seen again, as myself, not as anyone's story. People stilled. Leo watched her with something close to awe. Hannah continued, eyes steady. And I'm also here as a woman who decides her own life. Graham's smile turned tight. Hannah looked at Leo then, just him, her gaze warm and sure. Leo understood what she was giving him, permission. He stepped forward half a pace, not to claim her like property, but to stand beside her like a choice. He lifted his chin slightly and said, clear enough for the people close to hear, for 3 years, I called Hannah my family because I thought it would protect her. A hush spread. Hannah's breath caught. Leo didn't look away. I was wrong. It didn't protect her. It erased her. Hannah's eyes glistened. Leo's voice stayed steady. Tonight, I'm not erasing her. I'm standing with her. And I'm proud to be the man she chose to bring here. Graham's eyes narrowed, and for the first time his calm looked forced. Hannah's throat worked as she swallowed, but she didn't cry. She simply lifted her hand, still in Leo's, and held it a little higher. Vivian reappeared, eyes wide, whispering to someone else. A photographer's camera lifted. Leo didn't flinch. Hannah looked at him, voice soft. Are you sure? Leo's answer was immediate. Yes. Hannah's lips trembled into a small smile. Then, as the room began to buzz, a man older than Hannah approached. Silver hair, formal posture, eyes already wet. Hannah, he said, voice breaking slightly. Sweetheart. Hannah froze. Leo felt her go still beside him. Her father. Hannah's breath came shallow. And in the middle of all the attention, the cameras, the whispers, Hannah looked up at Leo like she was suddenly 20 again, and trying not to fall apart. Leo squeezed her hand once and leaned in, voice low. Tell me what you want. Hannah swallowed. I don't know. Her father took another step closer, and Hannah stood between two lives, one she escaped, one she was building. So what would she do when the past didn't just show up as a man who hurt her, but as the family she never fully stopped loving? Hannah didn't move toward her father right away. She didn't run to him. She didn't freeze forever either. She did something Leo had never seen in any of the powerful people in his world. She paused and chose her next step with intention. Dad, she said quietly. Her father's eyes filled. Hannah, I thought you'd never speak to me again. Hannah's jaw tightened. I didn't want to punish you. Her father swallowed hard. Then why? Hannah lifted a hand gently. Not here. Not tonight. Her father nodded fast, respectful, like he was afraid one wrong word would push her away again. Okay. Okay. Whatever you want. Hannah breathed out slowly, then glanced at Leo. He didn't speak. He didn't guide. He just stayed. That was the difference. Hannah turned back to her father. I'm here because I'm ready to be seen, but I'm not here to be owned by this place again. Her father nodded, eyes wet. You're not owned. You're my daughter. Hannah's voice softened a fraction. That's the part I miss. Leo's chest tightened at the tenderness in her tone. Hannah continued, calm but firm. And if we're going to rebuild, it's on new terms. Her father nodded quickly. Anything. Hannah's eyes sharpened. Not anything. Boundaries, respect, private conversations, no announcements, no controlling my choices. Her father swallowed. Yes. Hannah exhaled, relief and fear mixing in her face. Good. Then her father's gaze flicked to Leo. And you are? He asked carefully. Leo stepped forward slightly, but not in front of Hannah, beside her. I'm Leo, he said simply. Hannah's father studied him, then looked at Hannah. Is he? Hannah's lips parted, and for a moment she looked like she might panic. Leo felt it. He leaned in, voice low, only for her. You don't owe anyone a label. Hannah's throat tightened. Then she lifted her chin and answered anyway, because she wanted to. He's the man who's been learning how to respect me, she said, voice steady. And the man I'm choosing. Leo's breath caught. Her father blinked, then nodded slowly. Then I'm glad you're not alone. Across the room, Graham Pierce lingered near the bar, watching with a tight expression like he wasn't used to being irrelevant. Leo noticed him. Hannah noticed Leo noticing. She squeezed Leo's hand once, a warning and a reminder. Leo took a slow breath and did what he promised. He stayed gentle. A few minutes later, Vivian returned, flushed with excitement. Hannah, there are board members asking if you'll say a few words. Hannah's stomach tightened. Leo turned toward her, voice low. Do you want to? Hannah hesitated. Then she looked at her father, who nodded like he was trying not to beg. Hannah looked at Leo again. Leo's gaze was steady. If you don't want to, we leave right now. Hannah exhaled. No, I'll do it, on my terms. Leo nodded once. Then I'm with you. Hannah stepped up to the small stage without rushing. Leo stayed close, but slightly behind, letting her be the center. When Hannah took the microphone, the room quieted. She didn't smile like a symbol. She smiled like a woman who owned her choices. Good evening, she said calmly. Some of you knew me before. Some of you don't. That's okay. Soft laughter rippled. Hannah continued, voice clear. I'm here tonight because I'm done living as a version of myself that makes everyone else comfortable. The room stilled. She glanced down for one beat, then looked back up. I'm grateful for what this foundation has done. But I'm also grateful for the life I built outside of it. A quiet life. A real life. Leo watched her, chest tight, proud in a way that made his throat burn. Hannah's gaze swept the room, then landed briefly on Graham, just long enough to make him shift uncomfortably. I'm not here to reopen old stories, Hannah said calmly. I'm here to close them. The words landed like a clean final page. Hannah's voice softened slightly. And I'm also here to remind anyone who thinks they can decide a woman's life for her. She paused, eyes steady. That the answer is no. The room broke into applause. Not polite applause, real applause. Hannah handed back the microphone, breath shaking slightly, and stepped down. Leo met her at the edge of the stage, eyes intense. Hannah whispered, Don't say anything. Leo leaned in, voice low. I'm not going to speak. I'm going to ask. Hannah's breath caught. Ask what? Leo's gaze stayed on her face. What you want next? Hannah's eyes glistened. I want to leave. Leo nodded. Done. They left without drama, slipping into the night air and the quiet of the car like they were walking out of someone else's story and into their own. Hannah stared out the window for a long moment, then turned toward Leo. Her voice was soft. You kept your promise. Leo's throat tightened. I meant it. Hannah hesitated, then reached for his hand again, lacing her fingers with his. I have a condition, she said. Leo's pulse jumped. Tell me. Hannah's eyes were steady. If we do this, I don't become your employee again in any form. I don't become someone you manage. Leo nodded immediately. Yes. Hannah blinked. That fast? Leo let out a short laugh. Hannah, I watched you stand in front of a room full of people who used to own your image and tell them no. I'm not going to be the man who tries to own you next. Hannah's breath shook. Leo's voice lowered. I want you as my partner. In my life. In my home, if you want. In my bed, if you want. In my future, only if you want. Hannah's cheeks warmed at the honesty, the heat in his words, the way he still asked. She whispered, I want. Leo went still. Hannah leaned in and kissed him. No rules this time, no counting. Still gentle, still respectful, but deeper, realer, like she was finally letting herself stop holding back. Leo's hand slid to her waist, firm and warm, pulling her closer without forcing, and Hannah melted into him with a quiet sound that made Leo's control slip just enough to feel human. When they broke apart, Hannah's forehead rested against his. Leo's voice was rough. Come home with me. Hannah whispered, yes. Back at the mansion, Leo didn't drag her into anything. He didn't rush. He didn't act like the world owed him her body because he'd behaved. He led her upstairs, hands warm on her fingers, and stopped outside his bedroom door like he was asking permission for every inch of her trust. Hannah stepped closer and whispered, I'm not afraid of you. Leo's eyes darkened. I'm afraid of hurting you. Hannah touched his cheek gently. Then don't. He kissed her again, slower this time, and the night turned soft and intimate. Hands exploring carefully, breath and quiet laughter, the kind of closeness that made Hannah feel safe instead of swallowed. Later, wrapped in clean sheets, Hannah traced a line lightly along Leo's chest and said, I'm taking the job. Leo's heart tightened. Hannah looked up. Say it. Leo swallowed. I'm proud of you. Hannah's eyes warmed. And I'm moving out. Leo nodded. Okay. Hannah blinked. You're not going to argue? Leo's mouth twitched. I want to, but I won't. Hannah's lips curved. Good. Leo pulled her closer gently. But I'm still going to ask you to have dinner with me. Hannah teased. As what? Leo's eyes held hers. As my girlfriend. Hannah laughed softly. Leo Conti, using a normal word. Look at you. Leo groaned. Don't make fun of me. Hannah kissed him once, quick. I'll think about it. Leo's voice turned low. That's cruel. Hannah's eyes sparkled. That's careful. Leo stared at her for a long beat, then reached to the nightstand and opened a small box. Hannah froze. Leo's voice was quiet. This isn't a trap. It's not pressure. It's just something I want you to see. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, not oversized. The kind of ring that looked like commitment, not ownership. Hannah's breath caught. Leo. Leo's eyes held hers. Not tonight. Not unless you want it. But I want a future with you. A real one. Public. Healthy. Hannah's eyes filled. She didn't cry. She just whispered, Ask me properly. Leo's throat worked once. He sat up, took her hand gently, and asked, voice steady, Hannah, will you marry me? Hannah stared at him, breath trembling. Then she smiled, warm, real, happy. Yes, she whispered. Yes. Leo exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years, then laughed, actually laughed, before pulling her into his arms like he couldn't believe he got to be this lucky. Hannah kissed him again and murmured against his lips, One more condition. Leo's eyes widened. Oh no. Hannah smiled sweetly. You're making breakfast tomorrow. Leo made a pained face. That's abuse. Hannah laughed, cuddling closer. You'll survive. Leo kissed her forehead. If I burn the kitchen down, I'm blaming Ethan. Hannah's smile softened, and for the first time in a long time, she felt something settle in her chest. Not relief, not escape. Home. And still, one last truth hung in the air, playful but real. When the world finds out Hannah Sterling is engaged to Leo Conti, who's going to be more shocked? Her old life, or the man who swore she was like a sister? 2 months later, Hannah stood in her own apartment, barefoot, hair up, wearing one of Leo's shirts like it belonged to her, because it did. Leo walked in carrying grocery bags like a man on a mission and said, Good news. Hannah lifted a brow. You didn't buy 12 kinds of pasta again? Leo sighed. I panicked. Hannah laughed and leaned up to kiss him. What's the good news? Leo set the bags down and pulled out his phone. Ethan just texted me. Hannah narrowed her eyes. That never ends well. Leo read aloud, trying to keep a straight face. Tell Hannah I'm proud of her. Also tell Leo he's banned from saying, like a sister for the rest of his life. Love you both. Hannah burst out laughing. Leo groaned. I hate him. Hannah wrapped her arms around Leo's waist, smiling up at him. No, you don't. Leo kissed her, slow and warm. No, I don't. Hannah touched the ring on her finger, still getting used to seeing it there. Leo noticed and whispered, Still okay? Hannah smiled. More than okay. Leo's eyes softened. Good, because I booked something. Hannah narrowed her eyes. Leo. He grinned. A venue tour. Hannah laughed, half excited, half suspicious. How many? Leo cleared his throat. 3. Hannah stared at him. Leo. He defended himself instantly. I'm learning. I'm being normal. Hannah kissed him again, smiling into his mouth. Then she pulled back and whispered the only question that mattered now. When do we tell the world?